Today is a 10-year anniversary of the Equality Act, legislation to ensure equal rights for all. So why do disabled people still face so much inequality? Hello people, I hope you're all keeping well, keeping safe and keeping your distance. My name is Ben Andrews, I'm an expert in inclusion for disabled people and this channel is dedicated to just that. If you're into this type of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Given it's a 10-year anniversary of the Equality Act, in this video I wanted to explore how effective the Equality Act has been in supporting equal rights for disabled people. So with that being said, let's get into it. The Equality Act was introduced on October 1st, 2010, a landmark move combining legislation relating to the 9 protected characteristics to ensure everyone is treated the same. But how effective has the Act been in supporting equal rights for disabled people? Disabled people still face poorer health outcomes and die prematurely. The cost of living is 25% higher for disabled people, with an additional £550 fine each month. This is despite disabled people being more likely to live in poverty, have less access to education and be twice as likely to be unemployed. And even if disabled people do somehow find the money to spend, they'll have trouble spending it with inaccessible streets, transport systems and services generally. Now to me, that doesn't sound like disabled people being treated equally. I could come up with loads of practical examples on how these inequalities could be reduced and access improved. But at the very core of these inequalities is legislation that just isn't fit for purpose. The Equality Act is too vague and open to interpretation, with no tangible direction on what access, inclusion and equality looks like on the ground. There's little enforcement behind the Equality Act, which means disabled people become an afterthought or are forgotten completely, as we've seen far too often in recent months. This means that equality is left to chance, dependent on proactive individuals, disabled people and supporters to fight for their rights. And considering this was how it was before the Equality Act, it begs the question, what purpose does the Act serve? The Equality Act needs a revamp. There needs to be standards created for and by disabled people with government and legislative backing. These standards should be regularly reviewed, updated, must be adhered to and enforceable by the highest authority. Those who do not comply and can't demonstrate that they are actively working towards achieving these standards should receive proportionate and incremental financial and legal penalties. Without such enforcement, equality will never be guaranteed. To give you a practical example of what this approach might look like, let's take street design. There's tons of inclusive design guidance out there on how streets can be made accessible, but there's no mechanism in place or law to ensure that these are implemented or even considered. The suggested approach would embed best practice as decided by disabled people in the infrastructure design and planning process so that it cannot be ignored. If this is ignored, then there are clear penalties enforced by the government, taking the need for disabled people to fight out of the equation. We do this for education, for health, for housing, for retail, until all sectors have a tangible, standardised framework to work towards. While this might sound similar to the pretense of the Equality Act, there is currently no mechanism to apply best practice and ensure this is enforced as such. In 2020, equality should not be dependent on proactive individuals or people kicking up enough of a fuss to force change. As long as equality for disabled people is left a chance, inequality for disabled people will always exist. Thanks for listening, I hope this video was of some interest. If so, please do like, share and comment below. I'd love to hear how effective you think the Equality Act is and, if anything, what needs to change. And on that, I hope you all keep well, keep safe, keep your distance and until next time, take care.